All right, we'll give it about 20 more seconds here, and I know there's some people starting to come in pretty quickly now. All right, we'll get started here. Welcome everyone to our speaker series presentation for the month of June. Today's presentation is going to be done in regards to business technology for the construction industry. And we're very fortunate to have the presentation being done by experts in this field, which is applied imaging. And our local expert I'm going to have speak right now, who is in the area, and one of our ambassadors here at ABC Greater Michigan, Bob Martin.
Hi, everyone. I'm Bob Martin. Thanks for sharing your busy afternoon with us. Applied Imaging, we're a Michigan-based company. We specialize in technology. We joined ABC July of 2020, and we're just delighted to serve the business community in the Great Lakes Bay region. We also like to get involved with the community through sponsorships and volunteering our time. So you'll see our name around on some of those things. And then, I just really look forward to meeting everybody in person someday. Today, our goal is to show you ways other companies in the construction industry are using technology to save time, create efficiencies, and remain competitive. I have Mary Martin and Mike Heiser. They work on our ECM team here at Applied Imaging. They put a presentation together to show you some things, and I'd like to turn that over to them right now. So thanks a lot.
Thanks, Bob. I'm going to have Mike move to the next slide, please. And as this pops up, you'll notice that Bob's already done a great job of introducing us. The one that we have hidden secret in that you might not have noticed was Jeff Slack, who is on our analyst team. He's kind of the, how do I say it, the brains behind all of us sometimes that keeps us running straight, if you will. So that's your team with you today, if you would, Bob or Mike. There we go. Here is the agenda for today, what we're going to talk about. Challenges, what you've got going on out there, the opportunities for efficiency that you can gain through automation. We're going to show you a software demo because sometimes I think it's easier to grasp if you can actually see something in action to see how it might work in your organization. And finally, questions. So if you have questions towards the bottom of the Zoom, you'll notice there's a spot to type in whatever questions that might pop up along the way, and we'll address those at the end of the presentation. So next, please. So let's talk about challenges as we slide into the next slide, if you will. Now, I'm sure this is probably not your office, more than likely, but you must feel like it some of the time, because when you're working in construction, you're dealing with a lot of paper moving around and probably digital at the same time. Things being emailed in, all kinds of things that are coming in via a variety of forms. Here's an interesting statistic. The average US office worker alone uses 10,000 sheets of paper annually. Now, that's not including the digital electronic stuff out there, just paper. So if you've got 5 or 10 or 20 employees, multiply that 10,000 by 10. That's a lot of paper that you're trying to keep track of and make your business efficient. Next. So as you're doing that, let's talk about some of the challenges you're probably faced with out there. We've already talked about how much information is being thrown at you from any number of places. The challenge tends to be corralling everything into one bucket so you can actually get some things done out there. So the problem is you're losing time, because with manual labor, you're physically routing the documents between the departments out of the job sites, specific people that may need to approve things, maybe even satellite offices that you've set up out there. The other challenge, and I know you might have people like this, there's no formal process, so they've created their own system, if you will. So it's hard to train new employees because everybody's doing their own thing, and cross-training is very difficult because of that. And then there are the bottlenecks. You know those people in the organization that either lose paper, it's still sitting on a desk and a clipboard somewhere out there. So when you need to review information, deal with approvals, that sort of thing, and get things moving quickly, things get lost, bottlenecked, and you've got some real challenges going on. And if you have any office staff that are literally fat fingering or typing in information into existing software and systems, you've got human nature into play right now. And that's going to cost you time trying to figure out where something might have gone or what it would be called if it wasn't correctly labeled as it went in. Next. So what's it going to cost you in money? I'm not going to go through all the details, but let me give you the highlight on this one, which I find kind of interesting. So let's say you've got 100 documents a day moving through your office that need to be filed and dealt with, and it takes 6 minutes to file a document. Now, a document could be a group of 3 pages. If you're paying $18 an hour, that's 30 cents a minute. So that document just cost you $1.80 to file. So if you had 100 of them a day, how about $180? 22 days in a month, almost $4 grand for filing them. And in a year's time, would you believe $47,520? Now, my guess is you may not be paying your employees quite that much to file documents. So if that's the case, just the filing alone without paying anybody costs you double the amount. And we're not even talking about adding in the loaded wages, benefits, insurance, that sort of thing that have to be figured in as well. So the question is, there has to be a better way, right? How do we automate and make this digital? And that's where the next slide comes in. As I introduce, I'm going to have Mike Heiser take over from here, who's going to talk about opportunities for efficiency gains in your organizations. Mike?
Thank you, Mary. Can you hear me all right? Mary's muted now, so she can't tell me if she can hear me.
We can hear
I
you.
can hear you. I figured out where the mute button was. We're good.
Thanks, Mary. Thanks for joining everyone today. So as we talk through some different ways of handling documents, the different organizations online today listening probably are at different areas of digitization. So we might have some organizations on there completely paper-based. We might have some that maybe started scanning some documents to a network share folder or folder structure. And actually the next slide will help me walk through that a little bit better. But you have these different disparate systems that most organizations we walk into, certainly in the building and construction space, see a lot of filing cabinets, a lot of manila folders, color folders with sticky notes on them. That would be a project or a job file that gets built over time. Probably some drawings, some blueprints, both in digital and paper-based processes and storage. You probably have different technology, maybe some software on the front end, a CRM, maybe some industry-specific tools that have different content in them. Probably have some multifunctional devices, some copiers, some printers that can scan and produce a lot of paper. All those documents Mary we're talking through on her slide. Wide format, you might have scanning, printing, or wide format documents just stored on site. So when we look across the typical organization we walk into and the conversations we're having on a daily basis, there's typically a wide variety of disparate systems that really are all containing unique information that's specific to a project, to a job, to a client. So what we've been working with a lot of organizations do, and there's other companies like ours out there that can really come in and partner with you and start to understand your current processes and see if there's abilities to really automate some of these steps and really get them into a single record or a digital record. So that's what we're going to talk through today a little bit. This is not designed to be sales pitchy. We're going to talk conceptually. Like I said, there's a lot of companies and organizations and consultants out there that can help organizations like this, but we just wanted to share some best practice and talk through some general stuff here. So hopefully this slide resonates. There's probably different storage methodology, paper-based systems. And really the goal is to get everything electronic so we can support your office staff, estimators or sales personnel on the front end of the process that can work with stuff digitally out in the field and get it back to the office quickly, efficiently, automatically across the country. Don't know if anyone has staff in Midtown Manhattan like that picture shows, but something interesting over the last year is we have a lot of clients across all different industries that have really had to become agile in terms of how they're sharing content and support staff that might be working from home for a very specific reason. So really a lot of the strategies we'll talk through is how to get all of your content, anything relative to a project, a job, the sales process, all the way to material ordering, timesheets, all that into a single system or into a single methodology so that it can be accessed in seconds versus calling someone at the office to find a document and take a picture of it and then text it to someone in the field, or just someone in the office walking between several different storage methodologies, maybe some digital stuff, a filing cabinet, or maybe Bob down the hall has that job jacket and there's information I need to do my job, and Bob may or may not have it on his desk, or maybe it's in his truck out in the field. So really, collaboration's a big thing we're working on with a lot of our clients, and where a lot of construction and building clients are looking to streamline, digitize, and really create a platform that's easy to use, automate steps, and like Mary said, reduce fat fingering or multiple data entry points. We walk into so many places that have a few systems, maybe some paper-based storage, maybe a little bit of software that has their client information in it, probably a financial package on the back end. And then they'll have 10, 15, 20 different spreadsheets that kind of track a lot of the intel. Well, a lot of the stuff we're working on, and a lot of our industry is looking at is, how do we mine that data? How do we make it as accessible and easy to audit and go through those documents and pull information off them as quick as possible and make you guys as efficient as possible to sell deals, win contracts, and then turn those into successful projects. So that's what we'll continue to talk about today. So I'll just close up on this. Where we're spending a lot of time is really getting this into a singular system to support different user groups within most of our building and construction companies. We obviously have construction staff, our office staff, that are giving each other high fives in the office because they love everything we're doing for them. We have a lot of individuals on the front end of the process, and on the actual job fulfillment side, contractors, subcontractors, actual organizational staff, they're outperforming the nitty-gritty work day to day, and we're enabling them to see all the content. Then we even have some use cases where we have partner organizations, a lot of times subcontractors, supply houses, other third-party maybe design elements that maybe partner and help your organization out. And we've actually allowed them to view certain subsets of the information in that job jacket. Maybe they don't see the whole thing. Maybe they don't see the contract for the project, but maybe they see some of the specific documentation, or at the very least, the office staff can pull together 2, 3, 4 different documents and send them over digitally very quickly. So we'll actually walk through that a little bit in the demo as well. But the ultimate goal is to really get traditionally paper-based items, blueprint, contracts, material documentation for material ordering, estimation sheets, all these different things that are a lot of times in paper-based formats into digital efficient documents that can be accessed off a smartphone, off a laptop. We have a lot of clients deploying iPads and Surface Pros for tablets out in the field. Now, we probably want to do a ruggedized case at that point, but putting the information in the hands of the people that need it immediately is really a lot of the value prop for looking in this direction. So ultimately, we take what would traditionally be a manila folder, a job jacket, and we can start to transition that to a digital storage methodology, something sitting on a server in your facility or something in the cloud. Most of our projects are cloud-based. You probably don't have, a lot of the organizations we work with don't have elaborate IT teams. So simple to deploy, simple to use, with really enterprise level capabilities in terms of disaster readiness, availability, and just ease of use. So the tool we're going to show today is specifically called DocuWare. We work with a lot of different tools, and there's a lot of good quality tools out there that do a lot of these things, but we use DocuWare a lot. It's web-based, and I'll show you that when we go into the demonstration. But really, the idea is to start to take that manila folder and turn it into a digital representation where you have the document types, the client name, the address, the city, project number. So some of our clients use project numbers, some have job numbers, some have client numbers. So we can all have unique identifiers specific to that project. And we can start to construct a job jacket or a project jacket without ever producing a piece of paper. And that's what we'll go into via a demonstration right here. So bear with me as I switch applications. And this might look a little familiar to you from the previous slide. So what I have open here through a web browser, I'm hitting a cloud instance of our demonstration site, which is set up. This is a construction demo we put through together through several interactions with a lot of different construction and building clients. So just at a high level, what we're looking at is basically on the left side of the screen is where we manage all of our documentation, and we can see specifically what document we're looking for, and we can get very specific in terms of search. So this is Mary's account. Obviously, Mary has a very easy project number of 1000. I don't want to confuse myself in a demo, so I keep it very simple. And I can search across any of these criteria. Now, these are customizable fields. These are what are called index values, but this is where we really start to strengthen and accelerate the efficiency with which we work with the documents in a building project by having these index values versus just throwing a bunch of stuff into a manila folder. So I can search by document types, and working with our clients, we customize these lists to the very specific documents that support their organization. So we can have order forms. We have some clients we're actually doing the contracts as electronic forms, job checklists, measurement sheets, invoices, contracts. These are all different things, and we don't want anyone typing these down to get them into the system. So I'll show you how to bring some documents in here in a little bit, but the general idea is to have your job jacket defined in a digital manner, so it's easy, quick and easy, and very simple to bring documents in here and have them all in one repository for your different team members to be able to retrieve and access. So when I come in here, I can search across my entire document population. Now, this is a demo site. I'm looking at every job jacket we have in here. So there's a lot of different names, a lot of different documents, but that's almost a junk drawer look right there. What I'm probably going to do is be on with a subcontractor, one of our partner organizations, or someone within the organization, and we're talking about Mary's project. So I'm going to put in project 1000, or I can put in her name, I can put in her address, and I can pull up a very specific document, or I can bring back everything relative to that project. And that's the view we're just looking at. Now, over on the right here, as I double click on a document, it brings up a specific document. In here, we've got some JPEGs, some PDFs. The really cool thing with Docuware, why we use it a lot, is it's got a really powerful viewer that can open up to about 150 different file formats. So if I go into Steve's jacket in a little bit here, I'll show you some DWG drawings, so different design and CAD software. Most of the file formats we come across, we're able to actually render and look at it without having that application open. So we might have an electrical plan. I can zoom in, zoom out. I can move this bar across for how much room I want or how much real estate I want to look at the document. If you're like me and you have multiple monitors, we can actually have this in a separate window next to some other application you might be using. Maybe you have some design software, maybe you have a billing system, maybe you have QuickBooks, maybe you have a CRM on the front end, and we can actually put this image right next to the other software tools you're using. But there's a lot of flexibility, and Mary might want this laid out a little different for what she's looking at on a daily basis. So I can actually drag and drop the way these columns are constructed without changing the data supporting each one of these documents that are in here. So it's highly customizable per individual that's in a session. But hopefully this is giving you a general idea of how easy it is to have a replication of a project folder or job jacket in a digital format. And we are doing that very specific project for several clients right now. Change orders, blueprints. I mean, we just brought in some random content here to kind of populate the information in here. But once the document's in here, what happens a lot on those job jackets, we usually start getting fluorescent colors popping up there on sticky notes that, hey, this job, you know, if it's a roofing job, maybe there's a leak, and maybe we need to go out there and tarp it real quick. We've seen that one about 6 times on projects. Maybe there's an issue that the rest of the team needs to know. We can do simple things like add a little sticky note. And these are just layers over top of the original image. So we're not actually altering the image, we're adding layers over top. So anyone that comes in this record can see that markup that I'm putting on there. Maybe I'm circling something. Hey, we don't need this outlet here. This isn't ADA compliant. We got to move this one over. Hopefully you get the general idea. There's a whole host of markup and annotation capabilities across the different file formats. And I can zoom in, zoom out. Pretty cool. The idea is to get stuff in here digitally and make it as paper equivalent as you can, while still adding the value of having something in here digitally. So Jeff could be in here and working on the same project. Maybe Jeff's a supervisor and he's just responsible for material ordering. So he might just need to see this document, and this document. So we can actually set up views where he only sees more downriver documents or downstream documents that are specific to him getting the materials ordered for the project. Maybe we send some information off to a team that builds the gutters out or develops the sheet metal or those different things. So they might have a need to see not this entire jacket, but maybe just specific documents in here. So I start off by just kind of showing all the documents in here, and I'm in, and let's say the customer calls and they have a question about the contract, or hey, I lost it. I can go ahead and right click and I can go ahead and actually email it right out of Outlook or whatever my email client is, right out of the system as well, if I have the rights to as a user. So once again, once this information's in here, and sharing this among team members is really the goal. Most of the projects we're working on, a lot of the efficiency gains we're seeing out within your industry community there. And as I've got 3 different windows open. I did, let's see, where'd that email go? It popped up on the other screen. Oh, it popped up right here. So when I said 2, that's that contract. I can go ahead and send it to Mary. Here you go. And I can send that off. So pretty cool integration. I can even send and store and actually have a record of that communication right within DocuWare. And the reason that might be really helpful, or within the document management system, is as I go in and look at these documents, when something's digital, I can have a full audit trail. So as this information moves through the workflow within an organization, from closing a deal, either a salesperson or a bid process, to starting to pull together all the supporting documentation, it's very important to know where that document is, who's touched it, who they've done, what they've done with it. So we can right click on this as well and pull up a history. And this Mike Heiser guy stored it today. So I put that document in today, and I just opened it at 11:58. I was trying to find a document with a little more interaction with it, but if that document's moving through a workflow, it'll show someone stamped it. They did this to it in a workflow. They took this action on it, so you can have a full audit trail of that document. So that's great, but we've been in business for 15 years, and we've got all these folders and these filing cabinets back in the warehouse here, and we have to go back and climb in the rafters and go grab this document. Or if this client calls and we're doing additional work at their house, we have to go find some information so we have intelligence on what we did out there before. So how the heck do we get all that stuff into the system? So in this specific tool here, there's something called a document tray. So this is just like an inbox on someone's desk, and we can bring information in here. So I can go out and peruse my hard drive. I can peruse my network. I can scan in here. I just happen to have some construction samples conveniently, and I'll bring a few of these in, and they'll bring them right into my inbox. Let's say I use Google Docs for a few things now, and I have, we'll have to use the creative cap a little bit. Let's say this is a product brochure for a dimensional or a specific shingle, or maybe a window brochure that I want to have archived in because maybe we wrote some notes on it for that client. I can go ahead and print right into the system as well. So just file print. You see the DocuWare printer. So it's actually going to put that image right in the in tray as well. You see the scan button. I could have a very inexpensive scanner sitting there and actually hit scan. I can bring images right in. And what we'll do is we'll start to see a bunch of documents in here that is the equivalent of a project jacket. Well, we also have our clients that have 5, 10, 15, 20, 25 years of job jackets. They can take that entire document and put it in and scan it. And all they have to do that at that point in time is start to put it in the right spot. There's the PDF I just printed out of Google Docs. So I'm going to select all these. This is going to be for a specific project, and I'm going to store these documents. I do not want to save those markup annotations I did there. So it brings up the first document, and I might already know what I'm looking at. I can go and type through all these fields, or I can start to what's called rubber band OCR capture information right off the documents and start to populate these different stuff. If you speak Latin, this document has a little Latin on it, and I can actually put Latin right in there. But if you have a project number, an address, so someone's name on a document, there's no reason for you to be typing all this information in if we already have it in there. Now, I showed Mary's earlier. So we know Mary's project 1000. And let's say we're getting into phase 2 of the project. We're starting to do material ordering. Maybe we've got some renditions we're sharing back and forth with Mary, maybe a blueprint. Maybe we've started some work and we have an invoice from the subcontractor or some timesheets, and I brought those in. Well, I know it's project 1000. I can auto index fill off of all those values that I already know for Mary. Mary lives at conveniently 1234 Main Street in Charlotte. The only thing it's going to do at that point in time is going to keep the previous document type. So I just have to change the doc type. So this is, let's say this is a change order. Then I'll go to the next document, which is a blueprint or a schematic. Change that one to, let's just call it a blueprint for lack of a better term in there. And here we have the electrical diagram we looked at a little earlier. Change the document type to, we already have that one mapped out as a document type. So I'm very quickly bringing in 4, 5, 6, 10 different documents in a matter of under 30 seconds, probably, if I'm not talking as much and I'm actually keyboard work, just getting these in here as quickly as possible. And that's where understanding your document types and having this customized a little bit to what's important to make up a quality job jacket or project jacket for you is properly in there as a drop down, so that we're really simplifying the on-ramping of scan images, electronic images you already have, stuff coming in via email. And I can even show that too. I think I skipped a step on that one. Here's another restaurant floor plan, not really relevant to Mary's job, but for demonstration purposes, we'll bring that as another blueprint. And there you go. So what I have 5, 6 documents in there. I go back to my search and I put in project 1000. And there are all those documents on top of the ones that were already in there that I can conveniently go through. What we can also do, we can hotkey. So we have a lot of clients that maybe have a CRM system, a relationship database like a Salesforce, or there are actually some industry specific CRMs in the front end. So you might already have a lot of information in that system. So what we'd basically be doing with a tool like this or with other tools out there along these lines is image enabling that demographic information you already have. So maybe you already have Mary Martin stuff in there. We can highlight in that CRM and hit, Control Q, and it will bring back all documents relative to Mary Martin. Or we can highlight project 1000 and bring back all documents relative. So we can keep you in some of your front end systems and bring back all supporting documentation without doing very expensive integration work or figuring out how to do the development work to tie into your different front end systems. So this is really cool if we have a bunch of documents we're bringing in or already hard copy, but how do we start to get rid of some of the paper in the process as well? And Jeff's created some different e-forms. These are just some simple demos of some different e-forms we have. We have an opportunity sheet. So we've had a few clients that are kind of using this capability as their front end CRM or an initial intake. So this is just a simple little document that Jeff put together that it says project manager. Maybe that's a salesperson. Maybe we're assigning it to Steve right out of the gate, the contact or contract date, whatever we want to search by. We just have some random fields. We're trying to show you the capabilities of an e-form, but we can put in all this different information, and we're gonna sell a contract to Joe Munson, who is Bob's manager, and he just happens to live at 123 Cooper Street. And he's up in Clio, in Michigan. I do not know the zip for Clio, but we'll go with that. So this would be the same information that would probably be written down on a notepad or into another system when someone's on the phone with a client that maybe saw an ad, a Facebook ad. We could have a drop down for what the lead source is. So we have a lot of different construction companies that play around with a lot of different advertising stuff online, different local newspapers, billboards, radio spots. So you can put an actual lead source. We can do drop-down menus. We can customize these e-forms however we want. But once I've gathered all that information, I'm done talking with Joe. Joe needs an addition and new windows. So all this information will actually come into the system. And in this case, we actually have a notification coming to Steve, if I have that turned on correctly here. So Steve was a salesperson on this. There's going to be a list here. And under Steve's going to get a little pop-up indicator that, hey, you've got 2 new opportunities or leads that have come in. You need to take some action on this. So this is rudimentary workflow. And we're seeing a lot of use cases for small, medium construction business construction and building organizations that have several rudimentary workflows that build towards a successful project. And the first and foremost is getting that client in the front door. And it's either through a bid process or a sales opportunity. So Steve can actually see, this is Steve's queue. There's the form I just filled out. It shows up in my inbox. I can also have this send an email to Steve to say, hey, Steve, follow up with Joe here. Joe's ready to go. He wants an addition. He needs new windows. So I can actually call right off this form, or maybe this is being done in the front end CRM system you already have, but we can complement that as well. The really cool thing here, and where Jeff spends a lot of time, is most of our clients have a whole library of forms that they developed over time to really support the products and the services they're selling, and probably have fine print on there. There's some legal terms, different, very complex product structures built into a simplified contract. We can take this information, overlay it right on an existing image and form as well. So it supports an e-form activity where maybe a contract is being reviewed and gone through with a client out in the field. You know, what type of roofing, what type of, are we doing ridge vents, turtle vents, are we doing what type of shingle? And all this information can be filled out. You can see on the e-forms, we can date, we can sign on a tablet. That's even more slick. They're doing it with their finger. And Steve signing as well. So we do have some clients that have moved some of these e-form capability right to the front end of their process. Now, most contracts and a lot of the services your teams perform out there, pretty complicated in terms of the SKUs and the different tools, the different items, the materials you're deploying. So this is sometimes requires some time and evaluation, maybe a tweaking of the form, or we can overlay on your existing forms a lot of the times. So that's a pretty slick thing. So that's where a lot of light bulbs go off a lot of times, is when we can use an e-form. And a lot of times we start off with internal processes, maybe an appraisal or an estimation sheet. We have townships and municipalities that have their teams out in the field that might be filling out an e-form for different permit work out in the field. But e-form can start to remove paper from the process, and where the real power is, as soon as I hit submit here, this is sitting in a queue at someone in the office staff back at your main facility, and they've got a contract in hand, and they can start doing parallel processing of this information immediately and getting this onto the supervisor that starts material ordering and scheduling a different team. So hopefully that gives you some different ideas on how to start transitioning paper out of a lot of the process as well. And a lot of organizations, when we first have this conversation, we'll look at 1 or 2 documents, and then all of a sudden it's like, hey, what about this document? What about this document? So it's really trying to find the low hanging fruit to remove those documents and convert it to an e-form. And all those will come right into a work queue or into a job jacket as soon as that submit button is hit at that point in time. A lot of organizations are very familiar with folder structure. So we can take all these index values and generate folder structures based on maybe the sales rep, by project number, what status they're in. So you can see there's a lot of flexibility to customize this to really mimic, mirror, and help transition organizations that are just looking at ways to eliminate steps, drive efficiency, and really expand collaboration so that you can go out, sell more projects, have the projects go smoother. And really what we find the most in your industry is a lot of back and forth between the professionals out in the field talking to the office staff to have them text, to send an image, email documents that are in hard copy back at the office. So just trying to go across at a very high level and show you some of the different capabilities out there. Obviously, tools like this can be simple to very complex in terms of the problems we're trying to solve. And there's a lot of really great tools out there that can help with, for lack of a better term, digital transformation of the mission critical documents for construction jobs and projects. And as you guys all know, it just seems like the paperwork gets broader, wider, and more complex. So getting into a digital single format to start to allow collaboration between your different team members, your partner organizations, your clients, really becomes a lot easier when it's in a logical digital format. So I've talked for a long time there. There's a lot more stuff I go over, but I think that's probably a good high level, just some of the capabilities out there. Some of you might already have systems like this in place. And like I said, you might already have some specific task specific products out there. There's estimation tools like Hover that can go and take pictures of houses and organize some of that documentation. We are actually complementing those tools in some projects. We've seen Hover several times. A lot of different financial packages on the front end, but QuickBooks is certainly prevalent in a lot of organizations in your space. And we can extract these index values as well to help populate different systems without having to type it down several times or type it several times. So we actually do a lot of AP invoice work and bring documents in and do the same automated extraction. And then we can do an extract to an Excel, and you'll actually see all these index values in an Excel. Make sure it's popping up on the other screen here, bear with me. So that entire search I just did, all those values are now prevalent in this Excel. So I might want to run some reports off of some of the values of these index values. So I can now have a formula or put this into a template to give me feedback, or maybe I just want a high level overview that I can pass out to a couple of the supervisors so they can see a snapshot of our project list. Mobile is really popular right now. We have clients that are deploying iPads. Most of our clients have smartphones out there, either employee owned, that they can access through there. A tablet's a little better experience if you're looking at images on a normal basis out in the field. But if your team members even have laptops out there, as long as they can get online, they can access all this information if they have the rights to access it. So that's the end of the demo. I did see a question popped up in chat. We'll circle back to that when we wrap up the deck here, the presentation. I'm going to hand it back over to Mary. Thanks for letting me go through this really quick. There's a lot to cover. There's a lot more capabilities, but we just want to show you some cool stuff that we're seeing some success with our clients out in the field in terms of adding some efficiency. Each of your organization's unique. So just solving your specific problems and complementing your processes and helping you become more efficient. There's a lot of cool tools and capabilities and teams out there that can help you with that. So let us know if we can help out in any way.
Awesome. Thanks, Mike.
Absolutely.
As Mike slips back into the slide deck again, if you have any questions, make sure you put them in the chat. There's nothing that how do I phrase it? Nothing crazy that you can't ask that we haven't already heard before, probably, or simplistic, whatever you might need from us. So as Mike's going back in there, one of the things we want to make sure that you're aware of is that, we talked about some areas of your organization, but the beauty of a software solution is it works with all areas of your business. HR, if you're dealing with that part of it, legal, contracts, that sort of thing, sales, and of course, finance and accounting is another big area. But more importantly, it works with any file format you've got out there. Mike mentioned that part of it. So whatever you've got, they're all stored in one place as part of it as well. So next, Mike, if you would, please. So we're going to talk about what you gain when you move to a digital document management strategy. I think you've probably already figured this part out. Your files are centralized in one place. So you've got control over access rights. I mean, you can decide who gets to look at them. Can they delete them? Can they make any changes to them? What can they do? But they're in one place and they're secure and backed up. You can automate tasks so you eliminate those bottlenecks in the office. Everything's organized so at any given time, somebody from management on down to the people in the trenches can see what their tasks are, what needs to be done. You've created workflows and you can be notified that you have something waiting for you. You saw the list that Mike had in there, a task list, a to-do list, if you will, but it might be an email reminder. You get an email saying, click this link and approve this document. That simple. If you worry about retention dates, you can deal with that. Or if you have a project that has privacy issues, security is involved, it can satisfy any compliance that you need to have with that particular area. But more importantly, you've now connected all your team members very easily, whether it's on their smartphone, a tablet, whatever it is, they can now give approvals, make decisions. It's a digitized process. And at any time, if there's email involved, you now, when you bring a search back, you can see what email has gone on in relationship to a project or a job, what the attachments were that were maybe out there shared. So you get the most recent attachment along the way. So you're working from a current set of documents. If you're dealing in audits, you've got accessibility that can make that super simple. And at any time, you can monitor your performance with a timeline. The most important thing, though, is you've cut down on the manual work, the things that take the time away from what really needs to be done to get the projects taken care of and to make money and make the company successful. So most importantly, you've improved employee engagement. You've given them tools to make things simple, to make things easy, to get the job done. And if they're feeling successful, they're going to stay. The company's making money. Everybody is happy, which is what we're all striving for. Now, as Mike moves to the next slide, I know what you're thinking. Where do we start? I mean, we have got things all over the place. It is crazy. Here's what you do. Examine your current process. Start to analyze what you've got going on out there, where the challenges are with that. But more importantly, talk to the people in the trenches who are doing the work, the people in the field, the people in the office. What's going on? What steps are involved? Where can we maybe take a look at making things more efficient for you? And then what are the various types of processes or documents that are moving throughout your organization? What's out there that we can take a look at? Mike talked about e-forms. Are there things in paper that can now be electronic and submitted that way and completed? And how does the information flow through the office? That's critical. Start asking questions about everybody who's involved. Document all of this. Put it in writing. And who needs access? What kind of access do they need? Do you want them just to look at it? Do you want them to make changes, add notes to it, that sort of thing along the way? If you're doing all of these things and identifying the problem areas, whatever company you decide to choose to help you move towards automation, this will help them and you determine where you start, what you do to get things done, and how you make the project successful. Is all of this lined up together. So if you have an idea of where your challenges are. And finally, as you move into the next slide, Mike, if you will, if you need more information, want to reach us, here's some contact information for us at Applied Imaging. You've met Bob Martin. He's a member of your organization now, but that's his email address and his phone number. Mike Heiser is also on there. He's the expert working in your area as well. Feel free to reach out to them. And now we're going to kind of head to questions. I know we're done a little early, but that's not always bad because I suspect there are a lot going on this time of year in your organizations. One of the questions we've got here, Mike, is there version control?
Yeah, so we just showed one tool here. We have multiple tools. There's a lot of tools out here, but most of them have some version of version control. So in DocuWare, the way you'd handle it there is if you're working with a rendition or a a specific document and you're going to get into versioning, you're going to open it in its native application. You're going to make changes. You're going to bring it back in, and it'll actually save it as a separate content. Now there's different ways to do version control, and every tool handles it a little differently. But yes, there is version control. Sometimes when I get asked about version control, really what they're driving at is that audit trail as well. Who touched it, who did what with it. So we can get into actually opening its native application, making changes, and bringing it back in, which would be a different version. But also there is that full history and audit trail to see who's touched and done what to it. And if you're doing annotation markup, those are just simply layers on top, and that'll be in the audit history as well.
Okay, Mike, I've got one for you here too. We've got a lot of different hardware around the office. I mean, we've got copiers, we've got different types of scanners. Does that make a difference? And how does it work with a copier for scanning off a copier, for example?
Yeah, so we always look at the entire picture from cradle to grave, the creation of the documents, paper-based, all the way to how you're managing them and interacting with that content. Applied as a full service provider. We are in the equipment space as well. We have MFPs, multifunctional devices, printers, but from like a DocuWare ECM perspective, we are device agnostic. So we can on-ramp documents off your existing technology a lot of times. Sometimes it might make some sense to bring in purpose-driven scanner, maybe like a desktop that might have some image enhancement capabilities. If you're bringing a lot of documents into a cloud environment, you want them to be as small and as quality as possible. So typically in a project, we'll talk through and see if the technology you have in place can support the project, or if there needs to be a tweak or enhancement. The nice thing with our organization is we can handle all aspects of it. But if you have a vendor in there that's already handling your equipment, we do that all the time. We come in, we do a project like this, and we use their existing technology.
Mike, how about a phone? Can they scan from a phone in the field?
Yeah, so DocuWare specific, most of the tools we work with have capture capabilities. So we can set up a workflow where you're scanning and maybe sending an email. But really cool thing with the product we showed you today, they actually have a couple apps that can deploy on Android and iPhones. And we even have clients out in the field using it on their iPads, but they can capture and it will come right into that inbox as well. So we can have it automatically set to come in there. We have one client using that app to take pictures of the exterior of houses on projects, and it will come in and then they index those as actual images as well. So once again, DocuWare is pretty slick in terms of making it really easy to get content in there and intelligently organized. So yeah, off the phone, the e-forms I showed, those can all be opened in Safari on an iPhone or a Chrome browser on an Android, and can be interacted with on those e-forms, or you can use the inherent apps for DocuWare. OnBase is another tool we deploy, and they'll have a little different capabilities. But yeah, capturing stuff out in the field as effectively as possible. We have clients that are actually using that app to take picture of signed contracts out in the field and different documentation, and then that fires off the internal paperwork, digital paperwork process internally off of that app on the phone.
Mike, I'm going to ask the obvious question here. If it's on my phone, does it look the same as the form I saw on the screen?
Can you clarify?
Well, that was a nice, beautiful, big picture on the screen on my workstation. How does that look when it hits the phone?
So the apps and the web browsing session, like I said, a phone is a much smaller screen size, but you can zoom in and out. You can go to landscape and portrait. So we have a service organization that has a very irregular sized document for the services they provide. So their teams out in the field, their service professionals, they use the app. They'll pull up the history of the service request there, which is a digital document, and they actually go to landscape and they can zoom in and out on specifics. If you're accessing documentation a lot out in the field, an iPad, tablet, or laptop would probably make more sense, but they can certainly access the same information through a web browser session or through the apps, whatever is easier to use for the end user or the community as a whole.
Sounds good, Mike. Greg, I'm going to ask a favor. I know some folks have come in by phone. Can you unmute everybody to see if there's any questions out there that they might want to ask because they don't have access to chat?
Absolutely. I'll see what I can do here. Like I said, I'm not extremely savvy here, but if anybody would like to unmute themselves quicker than I can do it, please do so. And I'll see what I can do.
Awesome, thank you. Mike, I got one more for you. You had all those wonderful documents out there. Can I pick and choose certain documents from that list and then send them out to, say, the county or the state or somebody else, a contractor that might need that information? How do I do that?
Yeah, in the demo, I showed, this Mary Martin client who's very challenging. I'm working through her project. So I showed, I think, maybe 10 documents there. So I can click on specific documents, control and mouse click, and then right click and just send a subset of documents if I have the rights to with the new organization. And I can email that. I can share a hyperlink to someone else that's in the system that can view those documents. I can also create an export that can be shared in basically its own little encapsulated DM system or document management system. If they're very sensitive information, that's probably the route you want to go. But in this industry, a lot of times we definitely are sharing a subset of documents with subcontractors, with different crews, with our material organizations. So that's a very, very common use case is, you know what, I'm working on Mary's project. I'm going to show all the docs, but maybe I only need 2 or 3 of them. Or I can go in and just say, hey, I want to see this very specific document. I right click on it and I have a whole bunch of different export capabilities, email probably being the primary to share outside of the organization.
Excellent, thank you. Well, Greg, I see you found the unmute button for everybody. Thank you for that. Are there any questions from anybody who's listening in that you might have for us today? Don't be shy and speak up. I think we've covered a lot of ground today, Mike. I'd like to thank everyone for having us in to share information with you today. Hopefully we've stimulated your thinking and given you something to think about as you kind of look past the paper and the piles of email and things that are sitting out there to know that there's maybe a better way to approach what you're doing to digitize and make your life easier, your business more efficient. How do I phrase this? Make your employees and your customer service a whole lot more happy as you go too as well. So again, contact information is on the screen if you need to reach us. And thank you again, Greg, and everyone there for the opportunity.
Thank you.
And that's all
Thank
that
you
I
very
have.
much. Yeah, thank you very much. I just wanted to thank all of you at Applied Imaging for putting together this great presentation. And thank you for everyone for joining us. Our next speaker series event will be on July 20th, held by Davenport University, and the topic is building high performance teams. So you'll be hearing more about that. With that said, everybody enjoy the rest of their day and week and have a great one.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Greg. Bye, everybody.
Bye.